Hey, super friends. First of all, I'm filming a couple of things in like one batch. So if you see me wearing the same jumper on different days, don't worry. I have in fact changed my clothing. I'm just banging them all out while I'm in the mood to record, I guess. So today is going to be about this whole COPPA situation. I've actually made a video about this previously, I think for another channel. But I didn't post it in the end because I learnt some new stuff and I kind of was a bit hysterical about it and panicked, like I think a lot of people did. I've since watched a lot more, some more stuff about it, some more things, and I just kind of want to share my thoughts about it and how I feel about it, and maybe how I think it will affect YouTube. So first of all, I'm sure, excuse me, unless you've been living under a rock, you probably know what COPPA is, but in case you don't, it's the Children's Online Privacy Protection Act. It is a law in the USA. It's been around for about 20 years, and it basically protects children, in this case, people under the age, like children under the age of 13, from having their data used by big companies such as Google or Facebook, etc., and it's stored and being made money off, essentially. So that's it in a nutshell. In principle, it's a really good law. Actually, I think it's a really good idea. It protects children's privacy online. It protects their data online. Children, especially of that age, are definitely not old enough to consent, and probably don't even know that their information is being collected. I think, hell, even adults a lot of the time probably don't know their information is being collected. So it's a good law. It's a good thing. It's in place for a very good reason. Now, it gets reviewed every 10 years. From what I gleaned about it, it gets reviewed every 10 years. It is being reviewed slightly early this time because of YouTube and their lawsuit against YouTube. And YouTube had to pay, earlier this year, had to pay up $170 million fine, and because they were they were violating this law. So they were collecting data on people that they knew were under the age of 13. So now, because of that settlement, part of the settlement agreement is that you have to now mark your channels or videos as for kids or not for kids. And so this is so that YouTube knows whether it could collect data or not from your videos. And so you can, sorry about that. So you can, so we can put ads on targeted ads on your videos and things. Please, please correct me if I'm wrong about this. Obviously, this is just my opinion and what I've learned. If I'm wrong, please tell me, because I don't know all the ins and outs of it. This is just the information that I've come across and gleaned. Anyway, so if you mark your video as not for children, you can keep if you make money off YouTube, if you have targeted ads and stuff, and you use AdSense, you can continue to do that. You can have adverts on your video, targeted ads on your videos, and you can have end title cards and all that stuff. If you mark your content as not for children, all that gets taken away. So you get kind of generalized adverts, and you can't have title cards. You don't get comments. You're not allowed comments. You can't see how many likes a video has had and things of that nature. So what does that mean for a lot of channels? I think the majority of channels are pretty safe. They can probably mark, and again, this is just my opinion. Don't take it as gospel. Do your own research. Go on the FTC website. I think most channels, a lot of channels won't be terribly affected by this. Most people, I think, will be able to mark their content as not for children. Now, my understanding is, and again, going to stress this about 10 million times in this video. I could be wrong, but from the bit I read, you know, stuff can, according to the FTC, stuff can be kind of divided into sort of 3 categories. So definitely, very definitely for children, like this is a kid's cartoon, or this is an educational thing aimed at a child and is, you know, the language reflects that, etc. Or you can have stuff that is very definitely, you know, aimed at an adult audience. The language you use is stuff that an adult would understand. The humor is, you know, all that kind of stuff. Or you can have a general audience, so stuff that is kind of for everyone. It's, you know, think of it as being like, you know, PG sort of a thing. It's kind of that kind of thing. It's like, you know, is your video a universal rating? Is it a PG rating? Or is it a you know, an 18 rating or something, or R-rated if you're in the US? It's, yeah, think of it that way. YouTube has gone quite simplistic about it. They've either said it's for kids or it's not for kids. Now, in my opinion, probably most people should be able to mark their content as being not for kids, and that's fine. The thing that everyone is getting the hoo-ha about initially, although since more information has come out, more people are kind of chilling out about it. There was this clip going around from this conference about it, and the FTC were like, you know, we will get content creators, and if you mark your stuff wrongly, we'll find the content creators up to $42,500 per video, or some shenanigans like that. And I admit, I 100% panicked about that, despite the fact that I do not live in the US. I am a resident of the UK. The laws of the US do not apply to me. The FTC cannot fine me. I am not a US resident or citizen. So, you know, unless I was being extradited for crimes I had committed in the US, that is just, you know, that's fine. So, good news. From what I can tell, if you live outside of the US, you're fine. You're not going to get fined $42,500 up to $42,500. If you live in the US, you're probably still not going to get fined up to that amount. What is more likely to happen is YouTube will probably delete that video. There is a risk, I think, in some cases of, you know, YouTube deleting your channel, but frankly, that's always been a thing. I think that's been a thing depending on which YouTube platform you're on, like by platform I mean community. You know, are you a gaming channel? Are you a toy channel? Are you a community, like a beauty community? Are you a lifestyle channel? Are you, it kind of depends really on that. But I think for the majority of us, we're all right. We're fine. I think unless you are definitely making content very much aimed at kids, like, hey kids, this is a story hour, or this is your bedtime story, or, you know, or hey, this is 10 art projects you can do with your kids. You know, I think unless it's that kind of video, you're probably all right. I think, you know, I think because of YouTube's sort of thing they did maybe a couple of years ago now, where, you know, they really wanted people to make more family friendly content, and, you know, if you had like swearing in your video or anything like that, you'd get demonetized and things. So, and now it's like, well, if you make children's videos and videos aimed at children and families and like nursery rhymes and stuff like that, now, because of like, if you mark your stuff as for kids, you essentially get demonetized, or your stuff gets greatly reduced. Like your income gets greatly reduced. There's a really wonderful video by Nate something or other. Oh Lord, I'll try and find the video and mark it and link it below. He talks about the factors at which videos are judged or the sort of the 9 factors that content will be sort of judged against. It's a really handy video if you're really not sure about how your content should be marked. Give it a look. It's actually really interesting. Even if you're not worried about this whole COPPA thing, like, it's actually quite an interesting video to watch. Sorry about that. Just had to stop and start my video. Anyway, what was I saying? Yeah, it's actually a really interesting video to watch. I believe this guy's a lawyer and teaches law, so he kind of knows what he's talking about. And yeah, so if you are worried that your channel or your content, you're really not sure, check that video out. I will link it below. Anyway, so where am I going with this ramble? For most of us, it's not, unless you are really making videos aimed at kids, you're probably fine, honestly. Like I say, if you're really worried, you might want to weigh it up in your channel and this content against the sort of the 9 factors and how they measure up as a whole on a video. If you want to err on the side of caution, there's 1 or 2 videos on my ASMR channel that I've marked as for kids, but that's because I'm reading kids' fairy tales, and for all I know, parents are putting that on for kids while they sleep to help fall asleep, or I doubt it, but you never know. Even though I aim those more at adults and I made them with an adult audience in mind, on that side of things, I want to mark them as for children because they, kids might very well watch those sorts of things. Anyway, yeah, most of us are going to be all right. So kind of really now the question lies is what will happen to channels like 5-minute crafts, I think, Troom, all those kinds of channels, and channels for children and made for children with like kids cartoons and all that kind of stuff, kids craft ideas, all those sorts of channels. What will happen to them? A lot of them, I suspect, will disappear. Some of them will probably keep going because they'll make sufficiently enough ad revenue, even though it will be cut drastically. Some figures I've seen anywhere between like 60 and 85%, depending on who you listen to. I think a lot of those channels will disappear off of YouTube, or they will make stuff specifically for YouTube Kids and stuff like that, which is fine and good. And like, I think children's content on YouTube is fine. I think, if people are putting that stuff specifically on YouTube Kids, that's fine and good and great. Those are the times we live in. Children watch YouTube now, and that's fine. That's good. It might inspire them to make videos or do whatever. They might get into filmmaking because they started making YouTube videos. Who knows? It's not a bad thing. I think a lot of those channels may disappear. We won't see them as much. A lot of them will disappear from the algorithms and things. So I think you'll have to sort of specifically search for them and stuff like that. Which again, I think if you're a parent and you're looking for those kind of videos anyway, that's what you do. You specifically search for those things, like anything really. So is COPPA a bad thing? I don't think so. I think the platform of YouTube will change because of it. I think how people consume content will change a little bit because of it. Do people need to be as worried as they are? Like, not really. Like, if you're really attached to your channel and you don't want YouTube to delete your channel, err on the side of caution, I guess. If you really aren't that bothered, then carry on as normal. If you make content for children specifically, and you get AdSense revenue off it, you're going to lose AdSense revenue. That's just the nature of the game now, as of January the 1st. So, Yeah, so it's kind of a big deal, but also, you know, it is and it isn't. And I think if you're really worried, go and look at the FTC website, look at their guidelines, and look at that video that I mentioned, and sort of judge your content accordingly. And don't panic about it too much. Be aware, and obviously do your research and gain that knowledge, but don't panic. It's not the end of YouTube as we know it. It just means, I think, that there will be more adult and creative content out there. And I think maybe we'll see the rise of YouTube as it was 5-10 years ago. That's my prediction. Anyway, that's my opinions about COPPA. Thanks for watching to the end. If you did, I really appreciate that. I would love to hear your thoughts about it. Are you worried about what will happen? Do you have a YouTube channel that you are concerned about? Do you make content for children? How is this going to affect you? I would love to hear your opinions below and what you think is going to happen. And I'll see you again soon. Take care. Bye-bye.